Hello and welcome to For the Love of Truth. This is episode 224 and is another in the Back to Health series. Today we are speaking with Julie Ann, who is a business owner and based in South Africa. Julie Ann's story starts with the tragic and unexpected death of one of her sons, and she really details out how her physical and mental health suffered as a result of that, and the various treatments that were employed in order to try and help her. Julianne ended up looking at more alternative methods for treating her health, both mentally and physically. And this is her story of her journey to recovery, which is ongoing. It's a very, very insightful story, and it was a real delight to speak with her. And I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. And if you have a story you'd like to tell about your health, then I'd like to talk to you about that. If you pop across to fortheloveoftruth.co.uk and go to the Contact Us page, you can fill in the contact form there, and then you and I can start a dialogue and see what we can do. One of the things that's become very apparent during this series is that these stories are so helpful for all of us and also very helpful for the ones telling their story. And it's really part of the healing process as well, and it is a real privilege that we are involved in that. And I just wanted to say thank you once again for all your support. You guys are absolutely amazing, and I look forward so much to seeing you in the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye. Right. Okay. So thank you so much for joining me on the show. I'm really looking forward to having our discussion based on a chat we had. It was last week, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really nice. And that was when you
thank
had that.
making time.
Sorry.
So thank you for making time for us to hear my story all the way from South Africa.
No, Dad, you're welcome. It was a good story too. I particularly enjoyed your horse walking in partway through last time as well. That was lovely.
Yeah, okay. Well, she's downstairs today. She's not going to come up behind me.
That's wonderful. So could you start by telling me a little bit about yourself and about the beginning of your story, where everything started and what happened to you, please?
Okay. I own a horse trail riding company on the wild coast of South Africa. So I take people on horse riding holidays. Was also a long distance endurance rider. So I would ride for, I think you guys call it 50 miles, we call it 80 kilometers on Arabian horses. So I was very active, very sport fit, a busy person. I had two beautiful sons and a gorgeous husband, and life was good. And then on the 1st of October, 2011, my eldest son, Brandon, was killed in a car accident on his way home on a Friday night. And his car went off the road 1 kilometer from our driveway. And we found him on the Sunday morning. It was,
That's
it
horrible.
was quite a traumatic thing to go through. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And that's where this story starts. From being a happy, adventure-loving family, ticking all the boxes. He crashed completely. As for me. This was a different kind of pain that I had never experienced before. It was, as a horse rider, I know what muscle pain is and fatigue from doing things long distance. I know what pain is if you fall off a horse. It hurts. But this kind of pain that I've come through in the past 9.5 years has been a different kind of pain. And basically the first few months after his death, sort of 5-6 months, were okay. I sort of, I was managing, but it was surface. It was hidden management. I was dealing with life, I was functioning. And I did a big group of trail riders in March 2012. And I got back from that trail and my body stopped. That's it. I couldn't function anymore. The pain through my body was crippling. My knees, I couldn't, my knees had given up. The pain was awful.
Hmm.
My skin started crawling and was tight on my body. And of course, I went to the doctor to try and find out what was going on. And I was diagnosed after a series of months, eventually diagnosed with fibromyalgia.
Wow.
Obviously brought on from the shock and the trauma of losing my son and just the whole world collapsing around me.
Yeah.
Then the next year or 2 years, the timeline of things happening are very confusing. I have no proper recollection of the order of things.
Yeah. Okay.
It's gone.
Yeah.
My mind I can't remember. I simply can't remember. I actually had to go back and look up some notes to make some notes to do the story today.
Okay.
And I basically emotionally shut down. And then to deal with the depression, I was given lots of lovely, invigorating antidepressants.
Okay.
But basically shut me down.
Okay.
It was a plaster. It stopped me falling apart, but I also wasn't functioning at all. The fibromyalgia got worse, and the cocktail of drugs that I was given to deal with the fibromyalgia were changed and upped and became more and then less and more and less. And it was just, we were just playing with, they were throwing different painkillers and drugs at me so that I could cope. And then on YouTube, I was watching a YouTube video one day, and it was one of these silly YouTube clips where I could see that it was funny. And I wasn't laughing.
Okay.
And I sat there and I could actually, it was like I was looking at myself. I was out of my own, down at myself, and I was just this numb, blank person that nothing made me laugh or smile or cry. At this stage, I had not cried yet.
Okay.
Like 2 years in after Brandon's death.
Yeah.
And then I started reading and researching and realized that the antidepressants were blocking me. And I stopped them cold.
Wow.
And that's when things started to change.
What was that
At
like
the
though?
same
Because there must be some kind of addiction to that.
I don't know. I have no recollection.
Okay.
I just decided I wasn't doing this anymore.
Yes.
And I stopped them. Actually, the box of half-used antidepressants is still in my cupboard. I need to get rid of them, but they're still there.
Yeah.
And at the same time, somebody recommended that I go for tapping therapy. And I'm sure other listeners are aware of tapping therapy.
EFT.
And I thought, this is where you tap.
Yeah, it's EFT, isn't it? Emotional freedom technique. Yeah.
Yes, something like that.
Yeah.
I know it's tapping therapy.
Yeah.
And that was instant release.
Wow.
In the man's office, he said to me, he says, I can see that you are intellectually understand what's happened and have intellectualized the whole death of your son and where you are now and what's happening. But emotionally, you've not let go. And he went through, I had about 3 sessions with him.
Yeah.
And in that first session, we got about halfway through the ritual and the floodgates just opened. And I howled, literally howled. And that was the beginning of the first part, the end of the first part of the story, and the beginning of the second part of my journey.
Yeah.
From this complete numbness of nothing, and I seriously cannot recall what happened in those 2 years. It's gone, blank, completely blank. Unless someone shows me a photograph, I really that's, I go, oh yes, yeah, I think I remember doing that. Yeah, it
Okay.
was just
Wow.
very frightening
Yeah.
to look back and see where the blanks are.
Yeah.
At the same time, we'd also, through research, realized that carbs were bad for me
Mm-hmm.
and that were flaring up my fibro.
Mm-hmm.
So we changed our diet from high carb diet to
Mm-hmm.
high fat diet. Um, we stopped using sunflower oil and now use coconut oil and olive oil. We've only ever eaten real butter, so that
Yeah.
wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
I basically got myself off carbs
Mm-hmm.
all week, my days.
That's actually
And
quite difficult to do when you realize how much carbohydrate is around our entire food supply chain.
It's terrible. You can't even go out for a meal because everything is
Yeah.
full of carbs. You can't
Yeah.
go grab a takeaway. It's got carbs in it.
Yeah.
My only problem now is I really haven't been able to let go of the sugar.
Mm-hmm.
That is a work in progress.
Yeah.
But
Well, that is the most addictive one.
Yeah, and it is, and I can't say no to chocolate, but that's another story.
Yeah.
So here I was. By this time, the doctors had got me fixed on tramadol and acoxia.
Okay.
And I was fixed. It was magic. There was no pain.
Yeah.
I was pumping. I was going. No problem. But I was still struggling with IBS and fatigue and insomnia, which are part of the fibromyalgia.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when a friend introduced me to the cannabis oil.
Mm-hmm.
But the home brew
Mm-hmm.
that came in a little syringe and you could have a drop. If I had a drop, it still had the THCs in it. So if I had a drop, I was floating.
Mm-hmm.
And that, strangely enough, evoked some very vivid dreams for me.
Yeah.
And I very clearly remember the dreams all being about things that were worrying me.
Mm-hmm.
People incidences are worrying me or that I hadn't closed. And
Yeah.
in those dreams, I closed them. And I've never dreamt about them since.
The plant is an amazing guide.
Yeah. But as I then had to dilute it a bit because it was really like a bit strong for me. I would take it at night and I would sleep for 12 hours. So I had to dilute it. But at least I was sleeping.
Yes.
And I found it helped me.
Yeah.
And then in 2016, our farm was bought out by the government. And our businesses were all based in the village of Kaimouth on the coast.
Okay.
And the farm was 22 kilometers inland. So it made sense for us to relocate into the village, where we could operate the horse trails. My husband does deep sea fishing charters, and we bought another little house and have a bed and breakfast. So it made sense for us to move to the village and let go of the farm, which was a very hard decision because that was our dream. But it was not sustainable. We couldn't make a living on the farm. And then when the government decided that they wanted the farm, we very reluctantly said, you know what, we're going to cut our losses and start again before we're much older and before it's too late.
Yes.
And we moved to Kaimouth, and I was really starting to feel a lot better emotionally. I had dealt with the death of my son, and I was on these fabulous painkillers. I was having blood tests twice a year.
Yeah.
To my kidneys and livers. That bothered me. It bothered me that I had to go have blood tests to check that the painkillers I was taking was not destroying my kidney and liver. So this little thing was going off in my brain already. I wasn't happy particularly, but I could do stuff again. So it wasn't too bad. But like I said earlier, it was all just a plaster over all the wounds. In this moment in time, that particular chapter ends with me starting to ride again. I went on a horse trail in the Cape Winelands. I did a solo drive trip down to Cape Town. I had a fabulous 2 weeks. solo by myself, road trip, horse trail. I was me again.
Yeah.
Got home, and 2 weeks later, in May 2018, my husband said, come on, the sea's beautiful. It's a beautiful, calm day.
Mm-hmm.
There's no big breakers in the
Mm-hmm.
launch. Let's go out and go dolphin watching.
Mm-hmm.
So we got on the ski boat, we launched through the river mouth, and I promise you, it was a freak accident.
Mm.
There was nothing there that should have gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And as we went through the breakers, the ski boat did a double bounce.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been holding on with both my arms,
Mm-hmm.
hands, and I'd locked my elbows. And in the double bounce, my shoulder blade snapped both arms in half and shattered both the humerus heads in both arms.
Wow, my goodness.
So they managed to stabilize me and wrap me up in safety jackets, life jackets, and get me back to shore and get me to hospital.
That must have
where
been so painful.
I was actually numb.
Yeah.
The adrenaline was still pumping.
Yeah.
You know, I knew I was injured.
Yes.
You know, at the moment it happened, I went, oh shit, what just happened?
Yeah.
And then as I released my hands, then my arms just dropped, and I just looked at my husband and I just said, I think something terrible has happened. I think you need to take me to the hospital.
Wow.
And there I was. I couldn't. So that was the only movement. Can you see? I couldn't move my arms. It was like a little dinosaur with little hands. After the operation.
Yeah.
But then after the operation, they came through, and the surgeon wanted me to work out my pain management.
Yeah.
And then he saw that I was already on tramahexol, which is the same thing as tramadol, and a cochlear. He just went, I can't give you anything more.
Yeah.
Your maximum dose of painkillers.
Wow.
If I give you anything more, you're going to go over the edge.
Wow.
And that's when I realized, shit, this is all not right.
Yeah.
Something's got to change. But I was in a lot of pain. I was broken. I was and I got lost completely. I was lost emotionally, spiritually, physically. I was broken, shattered into 1,000 pieces. And then a friend of ours, her name is Dr. Shiksha Gallo. I was going to read her, what's it here? She's a medical scientist and doctor of clinical pathology. She's also medical director of Labat Biodata, a division which is undertaking groundbreaking research on the use of medical cannabis to treat serious illnesses ranging from cancer to autoimmune diseases. And she happens to be a friend of mine. She's crazy intelligent. She's got, I don't know how many degrees and masters and everything. And she had concluded her research with medical cannabis. And they were starting to package it and trial it and work through it. And I just happened to be one of the first lot of people that she could help.
Yeah.
And so began the next chapter of a 2-year journey of starting to heal. The first priority was to deal with my pain management and to get me off the opioids.
Which are hugely addictive.
Yes. And I didn't know that I was addicted. That is the scary thing. And that took about 2 weeks of a very intense high CBD oil treatment.
But stop a second. How do you not get massive opioid withdrawal? I presume it's the cannabis that does it, yeah. But I mean, that's ridiculous because most people would have an awful time coming off opioids because the withdrawal, from what I've read, is just horrendous.
Well, okay, imagine I was sat at my desk in a chair like this. I
Uh-huh.
can't I can literally use my hand to move a mouse,
Uh-huh.
and I can just get my fingers on the keyboard.
Uh-huh.
Can't really do much else.
Yeah.
I could hardly feed myself. I couldn't cut, I was really
Wow.
incapacitated with these arms were
Yeah.
broken. I was on the tramadol
Yeah.
and Acoxia for the
Mm-hmm.
pain,
Mm-hmm.
and she came along and gave me this little capsule and said, let's do this, trust me.
Mm-hmm.
And I trusted her. And she said, right, I need you to stop the opioids because they're going to counteract what we're going to do.
Okay.
And I was like in so much pain.
Yeah.
I really didn't, I'd take anything just
Yeah.
to zone out.
Yes.
And so the first part of the protocol that she gave me was one, to deal with the opioid addiction
Mm-hmm.
and to get me off that. That took about 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I can recall sitting in this chair, just closing my eyes and rocking,
Mm-hmm.
just trying to move through it while the
Yeah.
next dose kicked in.
Yes.
But it was all homeopathic. It was all herbal and CBD oils
Mm-hmm.
that were supporting my system. And it took about 2 weeks to really kick in
Mm-hmm.
and become effective.
Mm-hmm.
Our next project, part of the protocol, was to then heal the bones.
Mm-hmm.
And that involved different supplements. Can you hear him woofing?
Yeah,
Can
it's
I just
lovely.
go
It's fine, don't worry.
open the door? Sorry. Sorry, Jack Russell, my shadow.
They're wonderful dogs.
We've got 3. So then we started working on healing the bones, and
Yes.
she used collagen and a product called Skeotherapy,
Okay.
which I don't even know what it was in it, and that was for bone healing.
Yeah. Comfrey's very good for that.
Yes, I make my own comfrey tincture. I use it extensively with the horses and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine has a kitchen brew that she makes actually with comfrey and CBD oil into beeswax and olive oil, and that's I use
Yeah.
as a rub for
Yeah.
painkiller.
Yes.
And I was going through jars of it, and I still use it to this day. Got a headache, get the rub out. So I
Yeah.
swear by that stuff. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
But I digress. And then after we sort of stabilized me as from the opioids, and I could drop them.
Mm-hmm.
And we were managing the pain and managing the healing.
Mm-hmm.
But then my fibromyalgia started just to really surface.
Mm-hmm.
And she over the 2-year period, she then helped me manage my fibromyalgia pain. Because once the arms were healed,
Mm-hmm.
that takes 6 to 8 weeks
Yes.
for the bones to repair. But then there was the nerve and tissue damage,
Mm-hmm.
and that healing took another 18 months
Mm-hmm.
before I could move my arms and really start to function. I've got about 80% function back in my arms, but not completely.
Yeah.
But the surgeon didn't think that I would ever be able to lift my hands above there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He didn't think I could have more than that movement.
Mm-hmm. Well done, you.
Yeah. Simply because, and I do believe it's the combination of treatments and we supported my entire system
That's
to
the
heal.
key. Yeah, that's the key.
Homeopathic herbs and the CBD oils. So the first part of the journey was to heal me and to stabilize my fibromyalgia and the nerve receptors and just get me so that I could at least have a reasonable pain management given where I was.
Yeah.
And then the depression kicked in again. And was very, very, very dark
Mm.
depression. Yeah. And then I realized that I needed more help.
Mm-hmm.
Went back to Shisha, and she changed my protocols again, and we introduced more herbal supplements
Mm-hmm.
that helped with stress, hormone balance. I'm a candidate for menopause, so
Mm-hmm.
she took that into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
The irony is that we did blood tests to check that there was no hormonal imbalances
Mm-hmm.
or thyroid problems or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my blood work all came back beautiful. According to my blood work, I was the strongest of knots.
Mm-hmm.
My immune response was high. My red blood cells, everything was average or above average.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why it was so confusing. Why was my body inside is good,
Mm-hmm. But that's
but
only part of the story, isn't it?
externally,
Yeah.
it doesn't want to function, and the
Mm-hmm.
brain's not connecting. The brain is now falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
But with her support and the CBD oils and the herbal treatments and just this collection, this handful of supplements that I was taking every day,
Yes.
I got through it.
Yeah.
I managed to get to a place where I no longer wanted to end it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Up until sort of even November, December last year.
Mm-hmm.
Still very emotional. And I still am, but I'm in a much better place than I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really starting to feel sort of by December 2020, where are we? 2020.
Yeah.
I was starting to feel more like myself, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then in March 2020, there was a cascade of incidents that tripped me over the edge again. I could feel this beginning of last year. There was this franticness in the energy, in the vibration. And I didn't know what it was. And I couldn't tell you what it was. I had no idea. I just knew something was happening. I knew something was shifting. And this was much bigger than me. This wasn't me. I could just feel it.
Yes.
And it started to get on top of me. At the same time, we were very, very busy with my horse trail operation. Although I wasn't guiding, I had a fabulous team of women. Then African horse sickness hit my herd of horses, and which incidentally, although it's a different vector, is very similar symptomatically as COVID, interestingly enough. That's another story. And I was also having to deal with a lot of internal conflict with associates. I was very confused. There was a lot of toxic energy around me, and I was very angry. And I had a complete breakdown. If we'd had probably lived in the city, they would probably put me in a straitjacket and put me in a psychiatric ward for a couple of weeks to calm me down. That's how that was. And then in the middle of all this, there's this COVID starts to erupt. My husband's stuck in Canada. My son is stuck in England, and it all just crunched down on top of me, and I ended up on a heap on the floor. And COVID shut everything down.
Yeah.
And what a blessing that was. I slept and ate for 3 weeks. Because there was nothing I could do. Everything literally stopped. I couldn't change what was happening. I couldn't fix it. There was nothing for me to hide behind anymore. Couldn't hide behind my work. I couldn't hide behind the broken arms. everything was just, there was nothing.
Yeah.
And it was just gave me time to think and reevaluate,
Mm-hmm.
and let go of what doesn't serve me anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's
Um,
beautiful.
so it was a very frantic period from a business point of view.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to let staff go, and we've had to cut back, and we've
Mm-hmm.
had to, we were still here, we are still working. We've trimmed all the fat off, but
Mm-hmm.
we are still working, we are still operating, we are still waiting for people to come back for international travel.
Mm-hmm.
And that will happen.
Mm-hmm.
In the last, it was November, December, January. In November, I realized that I was feeling a lot better physically.
Mm-hmm.
Things were working. I could
Mm-hmm.
feel it deep within me that the healing, everything was working.
Yeah.
But I was still, this is November last year, so
Yeah.
2020. So I'd had my breakdown. I recovered through COVID, and now we're November last year.
Yeah.
And I picked up flicking through a Facebook.
Yeah.
And a lady in East London, the next major city near us, had a comment about Skeotherapy, SDIO.
Okay.
I don't know if you know anything about Skeotherapy.
No.
In a nutshell, it is healing vibrational therapy using quantum physics.
Okay.
That's the short explanation.
Yeah.
And I had seen it work on a horse many years ago. So it had been proven to me that this thing works, because I've never met the woman. She has this machine that picks up. She wants to know where I am, my age, and my name. And this machine apparently zones in to where you are. It picks up your vibrations, and it starts picking up where you're out of kilter and where you're out of sync, and it starts realigning your vibrations so that you can become in sync.
That must be to do with sympathetic resonance then.
I don't know what it's got to do with.
Yeah.
All I do know is that within 3 treatments, I could feel she picked up things that I had not told her about.
Yeah.
She picked up that I had broken bones. I had a damaged, emotionally damaged heart. I was holding some very deep anger, and a whole lot of other little things. Organ damage from the opioids. She picked that up. And I did a 3-month course with her, 3 times a week for 3 months, over it was November, December, January. And during that period, it was quite amazing how that anger that I was holding lifted. I could feel myself, I can't even explain it. I could feel myself changing and coming out of this cocoon that I had been in. And that's where I am today. She just helped me realign my chakras and my energy and raise my vibration, and put me back onto a more positive path. And that where I am today, that's when I started picking up your channels and reconnecting with where I was, but I'd lost.
Yeah.
So it's taken me 9.5 years to re-find myself, and this is where I am.
That's absolutely amazing. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know where to from here. It's just that I know I want my life to be simpler,
yeah,
and positive, and keep things that are dear to me close,
Mm-hmm.
and what doesn't serve me, let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, I was going to ask you if you could go back and say to your younger self what to do. I think what you just said there is probably what you'd say, isn't it?
yes, don't worry about if it's not working for you, just let it go.
Yes.
My husband's been telling me that for years, but I mean, I'm far too, on it to let go. Damn it, no.
No, I agree. When I had my breakdown in 2001, it was probably about 7 or 8 years before I started to feel anywhere near normal as well. But it's the same kind of story that I just don't want to carry baggage around. I don't want anything. I have so little now in my life compared to then, but I'm much more comfortable and happy. And I hear this a lot from people that have gone through similar sorts of journey, that just to let go of stuff. If it's not serving you, leave it alone. You don't interfere
Yeah,
with it. Don't try and mess with it. Just leave it alone and find stuff that does serve you and find people that do support you.
yes, I think so, and that's where I am now. I'm surrounding myself with amazing people who are of my tribe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fit into the normal
Yeah.
boxes.
Yeah.
I literally stand with, no, I didn't fit into the normal school system.
Yeah.
I don't fit into the normal office system. That's why I've always been worked for myself, and I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I am different,
Yeah.
and I've now learned to actually embrace that difference
Yes.
and say, well, whatever, you don't like it, that's fine. That's your problem, not mine.
We've had similar paths. I've had maybe one job and that didn't work out very well. I'm much better beating to the sound of my own drum.
Yes.
And people don't like that drum. That's fine. I'm playing it for me. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. And that can also become a turbulent process while
Yes.
people trying to squash you into
Yeah.
what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, hell no.
Yeah.
So you get labeled.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But I wasn't fine with it. I'm now fine with it. But now I'm older.
Well, I think that's one of the key points is when you stop resisting it, because that which you resist persists. And I know as I've got older, it sounds you've done the same thing. I don't worry about what people think. I don't worry about what people say. I know what I'm doing is right for the right reasons. And I keep doing it regardless of the weird comments and the nonsense that comes my way from time to time, because it's just because they don't get it. They want you to conform and I will not conform. I want to express my life how I see fit, just like you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And as long as what I do doesn't cause harm to anyone else,
Yeah.
what difference does it make if I want to live the way
Yeah.
I do? And I sort of float somewhere between. I've often said I'm a bit of a closet hippie,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not quite a hippie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a businesswoman, but I'm not cutthroat.
Yeah.
Somewhere on my own little
Yeah.
path,
Yeah. But that's what
taking
we should be. Yeah.
of things from all over,
Yeah.
and you take what I need in that moment that suits me. So I can go from tie-dye skirts and barefoot and beads to cocktail dresses with my hair up. I'm comfortable in either scenario,
I
and
think
somewhere
that's
in the middle.
I think that the message from that is that you are incredibly flexible, and we all can be. And it's that flexibility was the key, because that's what also allows you to heal, because you take different approaches, you look at different things, and this is what I wanted to briefly touch on, because it became very clear in what you were talking about, is that one healing modality doesn't fit the entire scenario. As you've gone through these different kind of processes you've identified, you've done slightly different variations and things in different support teams, your people that you've brought together to help you get to the point you want to get to. But little changes and modifications are required. You can't just say, well, I'm going to take that pill and that's the end of it. No, you've got to find your way through this path and feel your way through it.
Yeah, and at the moment, one of those little pills is not providing that relief, or that I've tried to stop taking certain things, and within 2 or 3 weeks I've realized something's not. Let me go back on that one again. It's changed since I stopped taking that little capsule.
Yes.
Let me go back on that one.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so
Yeah.
I can't not have that one.
Yeah.
So let me try leaving that one out.
Hmm.
And so I have dropped and collected.
Uh-huh.
I mean, but if you saw the handful of goodies, but it's because of natural products are often difficult to resource.
Yes.
Sometimes it's better just to take something that is packaged,
Hmm.
although I hate packaged food, but
Hmm.
little tablets, I'll forgive myself for that. But
Hmm.
I make sure my sources are as undiluted or all my sources are as pure and as natural as
Hmm.
possible.
Hmm.
So whatever I'm putting in is not going to cause an unnatural chemical reaction.
Well, absolutely, and particularly with the horses, they are one of the most perfect beings on the planet. They've been here for millions of years, and they are completely well suited and adapted to living in this realm, and they don't need that much interference from any other kind of toxins unless it's to help remove something they've taken on board.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So a lot of my knowledge of herbs and homeopathics
Yeah.
originated with the horses because we lived out in the middle of nowhere. I couldn't call a vet every 5 minutes if something
Mm,
wasn't right. I had to learn to treat it myself.
mm,
So a lot of my belief in the using herbs and homeopathics and alternative therapies originated with working with the horses. And um, now I'm just using it more and more and more for myself and my family. Um, and we're not 100% purists. And I like to think we try and get it right 80% of the time.
yeah.
If we can get it
Which is
right,
probably enough.
yeah,
I know
I
when I
still like
started
to
down this
think
track, I wanted to do
80.
everything perfectly, but I realized that in this imperfect world we live in, you'll just beat yourself to death. But if you do
Yeah,
what you can when you can, as often as you can, that's normally just enough. And every once in a while, you have a little health hiccup and everything, but you've got a better knowledge of how to deal with it and what to do to put it right. And it always comes back to nutritional toxicity, I found.
most definitely. I mean, especially with the journey that I've been on and having to adjust my food.
Hmm.
I admit completely that I can't say no to chocolate. That's my weakness.
Nothing wrong with chocolate.
Yeah, but I have too much of it. We are very lucky in that my husband does deep sea fishing, so we're going to get fresh fish. He's also hunts, so we eat it's game, and it's 100% organic. It's never had any chemicals added to it. It was standing in a field grazing, and poof, it dropped down dead, and
Yeah.
is now in our freezer.
Yeah.
So we're very lucky in that a lot of our resources we supply ourselves, and we know where
Mhm.
they come from. We know what they ate.
Mhm.
There's no these feedlot yard
Mhm.
feeding.
Yeah.
We don't need to eat that.
Yeah.
Even chickens are from a local friend who has free range chickens. So we're very lucky in
Yeah.
about what we can actually consume. And
Yeah.
interestingly enough, the more I have tried to eat more naturally,
Mhm.
the less I can eat anything with all these fancy colorants and spices and
Yeah.
takeaways and all these pre-made, pre-boxed, like
Yeah.
a no-no. My fibro immediately goes,
Yeah.
I can feel it. My skin starts to
Yeah.
creep.
Yeah.
The moment I take in anything that is being manufactured
Yeah.
and changed and made to look like food.
Well, that's absolutely right. I'm glad you said that. I have a feeling for a long time now that anything that is man-made is dangerous. And if it needs a label to describe what it is, I know what a carrot is, I know what an apple is, I know what celery is.
Mm.
And if I need a label for me to work out what it is and how to eat it, I shouldn't be going near
Yeah, exactly. And if you can't heat it up because it might become toxic, then why the hell are you putting it in your body?
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's warnings on cheese and butter, margarine. Do
Yeah.
not heat.
Yeah.
And you're telling us
Mm.
not to heat this, but you want us to put it in. No.
That's
I
right.
rather
Yeah.
go without.
Well, I'm the same. I
Yeah.
would rather go hungry Because so what if I go hungry for a day? It's not going to kill me. I'd rather go hungry because I know there'll actually be positive benefits from going hungry anyway, but also I don't have to deal with the toxicity that I have knowingly put in myself.
Yeah, yeah. It worries me at this particular moment. I've noticed that, and it's sort of crept in,
Mhm.
and it's only when you think about it do you realize it.
Yeah.
Is that you buy a loaf of bread,
Yes.
sliced bread. Now, I remember years ago, you buy a loaf of bread and you ate it fresh that day for sandwiches.
Yes.
And then the next day you would slice it for toast.
Yeah.
And the next day it got crushed
Gone.
up for breadcrumbs.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't make breadcrumbs out of stale bread anymore because it doesn't go stale.
That's right. Preservatives.
Yeah. So there you've got a loaf of bread and it stays fresh for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And then you wonder why when I eat it, I then get bloated tummy and indigestion and heartburn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What have you put in it? So,
yeah. You're absolutely right. And this is what the big problem with so much stuff is. Now, I look at stuff we buy sometimes from the shop and I'm trying to work out why isn't the fruit going rotten? We're like a week in, that should be well past its best, and it's not.
yeah.
What have they done with it? Has it been modified in some way? So I think that's something that people should become much more aware of, is that the more accurate you can get with what you take in, and ideally if you can grow it yourself, and grow it locally and consume locally, the better you will be, because all the local wildlife, all the local vegetation has information about the local area and the toxicity of the local area that will support your system, because we're part
Exactly.
of that system. And if you're taking an
Yeah.
apple from the other side of the planet, it's not really relevant to your life. It's relevant to the life over there.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much. And apples aren't indigenous to South Africa.
Yeah.
We eat melons and bananas. I've got bananas growing on my tree outside the window here.
How
Yeah.
lovely.
And they're beautiful. Now, funny enough, you talk about banana, those big yellow ones that you get, those huge, great big ones that you see. If I eat those, one, they give a funny in my mouth,
Yeah.
like a feeling in my mouth.
Yeah.
And within 10 minutes, I get heartburn. My little ones that I pick off my tree that are not very big, they're
Yeah.
it's sort of that size.
Yeah.
I can just stuff my face with them.
Yeah.
And no heartburn, no repercussions, no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But they're grown in horse poo, so
That's the best. There's nothing wrong with horse poo. It's good for you.
no.
It's good for your plants too, and your food.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in closing that you'd like to share with anyone? Any kind of message to encouragement or guidance, or anything you think would be appropriate that we've missed out?
If something doesn't feel right, it's not right.
Yeah, bang on.
Listen to your tummy.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to what. There's always a little voice on your shoulder just tapping you.
Yeah.
And your tummy turns a little knot.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to it. It's your intuition. It's your soul, your spirit, telling you that it's not right. Yeah. Your brain doesn't know everything.
No.
Your brain can take in information, but just listen to what's going on here. And if it doesn't feel right, it's not right.
Yeah.
Try and find out why it doesn't feel right and change.
Well, that's where I think it's important. If you take your guidance from here and your gut, as you talked about, your tummy, you can then inquire with your mind to start to pull the relevant information through, but trust the feedback you're getting from here as you're inquiring and looking at the answers. Because years ago, I used to try and think my way for everything, and it was just a disaster. What I do now is I use this inquiring tool I've got to request and search for the information. And then when it comes in, then I rely on my entire body and say, does this feel right? And I feel my way through the solution. And that seems to work much better. And I've had lots of conversations with many people now, and they're all saying broadly the same thing in their own words. But when you look at it, we're all saying the same thing. Trust this entire unit and the feedback it's giving you. And don't just live up here.
definitely.
Yeah.
Nature does provide everything we need,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and you don't have to be a hippie or a hermit to
No.
benefit from it.
No.
Really, you can just be an ordinary person living in the city, living in a town, living in the village, wherever it is. You can adjust your life to eat real food, whole food. It's food that you can recognize. You don't have to read the label. Cut all that stuff out. We're lucky. We can source our food locally, and we can provide a lot of our own meat and fish and chicken. We do grow some vegetables, but not enough. Keep it local. Buy locally. Support your local businesses.
Yes.
Buy their fruit and vegetables and meat and chicken and eggs and you know, keep it local. Support local. Keep it real. Real food. Real fat, not chemically made fat.
Yes.
Go back to what your nana used to do. Get the dripping off the roast mutton and use that for cooking, and use coconut oil and olive oil and real farm butter. Whole milk, whole raw milk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not this stuff that has been boiled and killed and then filled with artificial flavorants and vitamins.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, you can buy from a local farmer, do so.
Mm-hmm.
Buy full fat milk.
Yeah. 100%.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're very lucky that we drink raw milk, and we drink rainwater and fresh fish, and we're just very lucky that we can do what we do. But our neighbours don't. They buy everything at the supermarket in a plastic packet.
Yeah.
But that's their choice.
Yeah, we have a dairy up the road from us, about 5 miles away, that he's been producing and supplying raw milk for 60 years now.
Yeah.
And everything that doesn't get sold for raw then goes and gets processed. But yeah, the milk from there is just spectacular. As is the cream. The cream's amazing.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
You can just we get a 10-litre bucket.
Yeah.
And then I'll let the cream split.
Yeah.
And then before I mix the cream back in, I like you see, I'm voluptuous, you see, so and it's because of all the cream and the all the good things in life.
Absolutely, yeah. I take the cream from there and make butter with it. It's just delicious.
Yeah. When we were on the farm, we used to make all our own butter.
Yeah.
It was nice. But I don't get enough cream nowadays to do it anymore. That's fine. I still buy butter.
Yeah.
It's locally produced, so it's right.
Yeah, I just want to say, from my heart, thank you so much for sharing so openly, and also for telling your story, because I think it really will touch people, and I'm grateful to you from me and from them, and I just want to encourage you to keep on the journey you're on, because it's spectacular. It really is, and you're making such progress so quickly. It's amazing.
Thank you. I don't know whether this will help anybody. I had no intentions of sharing this story. But when you asked, something in my tummy said, share it. Yeah. Why? I don't know. If it helps somebody, well then.
Well, my view is, Juliana, if it helps one, then the hour that we've spent together has been more than worth it. But it'll help more than one. I know it will, because all the stories do, because they resonate at some level. And the feedback I've been getting on this Back to Health series, and it's not just about physical health, it's emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, it's all different things. The idea that you can take, because we're just normal people, we're nothing special, but we're doing special things because we're staying focused on stuff and we're not giving in, and that message does resonate with people, and it's so useful to have these stories, because people go, hang on a sec, I get that makes sense, and that's all it is.
Yeah. All I do, I hope I don't even know why I needed to do this story. This is so out of character for me. It's ridiculous. I'm a very closed, private person, and to do this is really stretched. Maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
appreciate that. Well, the same for me. I didn't want to do this. What I'm doing on YouTube, I only did because of what happened, because I thought I'm going to have to put myself out there because I am private and I want nothing to do with it. But
yeah,
it's the same thing. But at the same time as well, it is cathartic and it is part of the healing process because you hear the story, and as you're speaking it and hearing it, there's also more information coming and going from you. The words really are all largely irrelevant, I think, but it all helps. It all helps. But it is a big step to do, to be able to willing to share openly like that with people. But also, I think it's of real benefit to other people because you now have encouraged other people to share with people, and that talking that through really helps, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I've lost the audio. There you
Sorry
go.
about that.
It's all
That was
right.
my phone ringing. Uh,
So yeah,
I
a great big thank you once again. That's been magnificent. You won't see this on YouTube for a week, but I will be putting the podcast episode up in the next day, and I'll also put it on BitChute, Writing, and Library, and I will share those links with you. And obviously, it'll go onto
thank you.
YouTube at some point.
Okay, yeah, no, I'd read their mind if it doesn't go to YouTube. That's fine. Yeah, and good luck, Adrian. It's been great. Meeting you, and
Likewise.
also, um, it's you've been able to. I've sort of spun back 9.5 years to where I was when it comes to where my mind was then, and
Hmm.
I've suddenly gone in the last 2 weeks. It's like been on fast forward, and things that I'd forgotten
Hmm.
have suddenly been
Hmm.
awoken again.
Hmm.
And yeah, and hopefully it will just help me move forward as
And I
well.
have I have no doubt it will be of huge benefit. It's been a benefit to me hearing the story because I've had all sorts of things popping up in my mind as we were talking, going, "Oh, that's really interesting," and it's I've relived some of my process as well. But from a
Yeah,
slightly different view now because I can add your view of the territory to the map and I can see different things from it that I hadn't noticed. So thank you.
my pleasure, and thank you for your time too.
Thank you. Go and enjoy your horses and have a lovely time. And I will be speaking to you soon.
Cool. Well, anytime.
Thank you.
Loved
Take
it.
care of
Thank you so
yourself.
much.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye bye.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye.